and about the very last place I was going to check, lo and behold, was a Burmese python. I hope he's not got to hook himself around that fence in there. Oh my God. He's in there good. I certainly don't want to hurt the snake, but he's got to go, so he's coming out of this fence one way or another. There we go. There we go. Oh my God!
This is the largest snake we've ever captured, probably the largest snake in Florida, 215 pounds.
The skin-crawling creature was spotted slithering along a telephone line as horrified neighbours watched from below.
Balancing survival instincts with unexpected dangers or driven by their insatiable curiosity, animals frequently find themselves entangled in dangerous situations, but always get a helping hand. So, get ready to watch what this man did after finding a huge anaconda stuck in fence wires. Stranded cobra. Though snakes are one of the most unfriendly creatures of the wild, even they don't deserve to be left behind. A helpless cobra was found deep down a well. Fortunately, some villagers spotted the distressed creature, and soon the rescuers were called in, who first assessed the gravity of the situation before going in. Equipped with the necessary tools and strapped to a harness, one of the rescuers descended into the well. The snake initially resisted the efforts of the rescuer, but after making several attempts, he managed to securely grab it and bring it out. Now, what's actually amazing about all of this is how humble this cobra actually got soon after. Python rescued. Two wildlife officers noticed something hidden in the thick bushes. Upon searching, they put their hands on their tails, and later it was revealed it was none other than a giant python that was stuck in the fence.
I hope he's not got to hook himself around that fence in there.
And had been trapped there for days. Analyzing the risks, they gently detached the poor creature from the fence. Once relieved from its pain, they released it into the water. Snakes in pond. Walking across a pond, a man noticed 3 snakes floating in the deep water. Soon, he realized they were trapped inside and trying to get out. He quickly decided to rescue the reptiles. Holding a snake catcher in one hand and the other person's hand for support, he leaned down towards the pool and meticulously pulled out one snake. Well, the job was not done yet, because it wasn't just one snake, but 2 more awaiting help. Now, it has become a more challenging task, as he had to save not only them, but also himself. He did it again and again, pulling all 3 snakes out of their misery and proving to be an angel for them. Cobra got free. This poor cobra got its neck badly entangled in the fence while crossing it. Luckily, it was discovered by a man who quickly sprung into action. The man brought his cutter and carefully started cutting the fence, but the cobra made it quite difficult, probably sensing that the help was a danger to itself. However, the man left no stone unturned and cut the fence around its neck, giving this poor soul a second chance at life. Once it was freed, they secured the snake in a sack, and later, it was released in dense vegetation. Anaconda in bushes. While fishing in a river in Colombia, these individuals noticed the bushes near the edge shaking. They discovered a giant green anaconda entangled in the vegetation. With courage, they collectively held the poor creature by its tail and successfully freed it. Measuring an impressive 5 meters in length and considerable weight, they transferred custody to the animal rescue team. The dedicated team transported the anaconda to their sanctuary for better treatment, ensuring its recovery and well-being in its newfound refuge. Distressed leopard. This poor leopard climbed a tree to hunt its breakfast, but unfortunately ended up entangled in the thick branches. Despite several attempts, it was unable to free itself from the distress. Wildlife experts were called to deal with this unfortunate situation. They, along with vets, sedate the leopard by tranquilizing it from a safe distance. The leopard dozed off within minutes, and after making sure it was safe to approach, the brave workers climbed the tree to free the critter with their bare hands. The leopard was then taken to their center for medical observation, and after a thorough checkup, it was released into the wild. Wired creature. This young elephant found itself in a distressing situation after its trunk was trapped with a wire and was causing breathing difficulties, so it needed to be removed immediately. The news of its misery reached the wildlife department, which hurriedly came to rescue this trapped mammal and prepared the anesthetics for the elephant. The dose calmed the elephant enough for the vets, who quickly cut the wire off. This rescue was a race against time. The painful entanglement was removed successfully, and after treating the wound properly, the gentle giant was left there to heal completely. Stuck in the wall. The wildlife department in Nashik, India, received a call regarding a leopard that had been stuck in a walled compound since morning. They rushed with their gear to rescue the leopard that was trapped in barbed wire. This big cat had attempted to eat the wires to free itself, but this only hurt the poor feline. Officers tranquilized the leopard, covered its face with a soft towel, and after carefully cutting the barbed wires, they pulled the leopard from the discomfort and placed it into a net. After being kept under observation for 38 hours, this curious animal was released back into the wild. Poacher's snare. Wildlife experts in Kenya were called to help a lion trapped in a poacher's snare. After arriving at the scene, they sedated the powerful animal, covered its face with a towel, along with putting earplugs to protect it from the disruption. A rescuer with a cutter carefully approached the lion and began removing the snare. Everything was going fine, but the lion suddenly woke up. However, they quickly managed to sedate it again. After ensuring the majestic beast had dozed off, the animal was untangled and transported for a complete medical observation. Badly trapped. A man in Texas found a snake stuck in a very bizarre situation. The poor serpent was trapped in a bird netting and was unable to move an inch.
He's caught up in this net here pretty good. I'm gonna try to get him out. I don't know.
Realizing the snake's fate lay in his hands, the man sprung into action and decided to rescue the trapped reptile. Although a difficult task, he flawlessly removed the trap from the critter and released it back to the wild, where it truly belonged.
Seems like he's a little calmed down for a coach whip. These
dogs sensed danger. A man woke up to the continuous barking of his dogs and went down to investigate. There, he found a snake that had gotten stuck in the fence that might have come for something to eat, but couldn't cross the fence completely due to its small hole. He realized the snake was harmless and just wanted to escape, so he grabbed the distressed snake with his bare hands and gently freed it from the fence. Unlucky ducklings. A duck was roaming the road with her adorable babies following her every step. Everything was going perfectly, but they took a wrong step, and one by one, all the ducklings fell into the sewage. The mother began panicking because there was no way for her to reach inside. Luckily, 2 officers on patrol noticed her distressed quacks. They realized the ducklings had fallen into deep wastewater. The officers immediately removed the lid, and 1 officer put his hands in the sewer, rescuing all the ducklings one by one. Although she couldn't speak their language, her eyes filled with gratitude conveyed everything. A snared giraffe. The Sheldrick Trust in Taita Ranch, Kenya, received a call regarding a snared giraffe that had a thick cable tied around its neck. Before the giraffe could be helped, its exact location had to be narrowed down using a chopper and tranquilized before the team of rangers could help free it from the snare. Once the giraffe had dozed off, the ground teams rushed in, skillfully roping its legs to bring the large critter safely to the ground. After cutting it free from the cable, the team untied its legs, and the giraffe swung easily to its feet, trekking safely off into the bush. Immovable neck. Watch these heroic officers rush to tie down a giraffe that had a heavy-duty cord wire wrapped around its neck that restricted it from moving its head. With the majestic animal already under the influence of the tranq dart, they were easily able to overrun it to the ground to help. A veterinarian then carefully removed the wire and gave it anti-parasitic medicine and vitamin shots before setting it free. Workers from the sanctuary report that the giraffe appears to be doing well and is in good health. Sick elephant. A group of villagers noticed a sick elephant lying in a deep hole. Seeing how the juvenile was too weak to even bother struggling its way out of the mud, a rescue team, along with heavy-duty machines, had to be called. The team reached swiftly and began the mission. Using an excavator, a wider hole was dug before they could use ropes to finally pull the animal out. Being stuck in the mud for several days and also being sick, it had the strength to help itself until the vets gave the elephant necessary injections for days until it had gained back its strength and walked away. Rescue at dark. This poor cow in an Indian village got stuck in a sewer after falling through a narrow opening. Although the ditch was merely 4 feet deep, the mud kept slipping it away even further the more it tried to get out. Neighbors called the authorities, and they reached the site immediately. With the back of the cow facing towards the opening, getting it to turn around in the narrow opening was a challenge. After struggling for nearly an hour, the Good Samaritans were finally able to turn it around towards the opening before it was out. The cow was then handed over to its owner, who was speechless out of gratitude. Sandwich zebra. Although humans too tend to make the mistake of miscalculation, it's the animals that usually end up paying a terrible price for it. This baby zebra got caught up between overlapping trees for 2 days until these safari folks noticed and came to the rescue. After making several failed attempts, it was finally freed by spreading the narrow tree trunks apart. As soon as the zebra finally got free, its parents suddenly appeared to receive it, and they were happy to see their child relieved from distress. Caught in mud. In the midst of a drought, wildlife officers stumbled upon a female elephant and its calf stuck in thick sludge, which was not too far from turning into a tomb. The duo had come there to drink water, completely unaware that it was not solid ground, but sticky mud. Where the mother lost her footing, the team was able to free the calf by hand, but it kept running back to its mother. Officers then sedated them both and dug around her to secure the tow ropes around her front legs and attach them to a series of vehicles that were available to have them both pulled out of their muddy prison. Tricky rescue. If you've ever heard the old expression, curiosity killed the cat, this poor leopard may seem all too familiar. The poor cat had fallen into a deep well. Luckily, it wasn't long before it was seen and the wildlife department were called in. With it being a wild cat, the rescuers decided to use a cage tied to a rope. Although it seemed like a great idea, having the cat get into it became quite a challenge, despite the cage having the finest delicacy as bait. Nevertheless, they made a solid plan. Crafting a cage, they carefully lowered it into the well near the leopard. However, with gentle nudges from a pole, it finally stepped into the cage before it was lifted out safely. Poor kudu. These two men stumbled upon this poor kudu that was immobile after having exhausted itself being stuck in the fence for several hours straight, if not for days. The kudu was thirsty and exhausted due to the blistering heat. A man first offered water, and then went near the fence to help the poor creature, but he had to be very careful with that, because one kick from a kudu could hinder the rescue. In spite of the risks, brave souls disentangled the critter, and the kudu took a sigh of relief as it swiftly ran back home. Worried mama. This little fawn was entangled in a net inside a backyard. The fawn's mother stood nearby, confused and helpless. Within a matter of minutes, the man of the house stepped to free the distressed animal. Despite fearing the presence of the Good Samaritans, the mother deer stood aside and let them help break free the little bundle of joy. The man wasted no time and cut the net. Shortly, the distressed critter was on its feet and bounced toward the bushes. The homeowners stuck around long enough to be sure that they reunite. Frozen deer. While driving in Kazakhstan, these individuals came across a helpless creature frozen midway on its journey. Despite the intense, freezing cold temperature, the deer was still taking its last few breaths before the ice on its face was cleared and provided warmth, which helped the deer revive and get back on its feet. Once completely recovered, it was released back into the wild. Ensnared sea lion. An unfortunate seal that was reported to have been ensnared in a painful trap of fishing line and wire. Animal rescue and control members arrived on the scene and managed to capture the poor limping sea lion, as most of them held it down. One of them, using a neat set of wire cutters, managed to cut it apart and free the flipper, which took several minutes as the wire was tight around its neck. With utmost patience and skill, they successfully removed the wire entirely, relieving the sea lion from its suffering. Breathing from a crack. A father and son duo were walking in a barren land when they heard a strange cry, as if some animal needed help. They were not able to spot it anywhere around until the plea for help desperately increased, allowing them to follow the sound, until they finally found a lamb that was trapped in a tiny crack in the ground.
Is it on the side of that stone?
Aye.
The man reached into the crack and gently lifted the poor creature out of its distress. The lamb was quite shaken, so they carefully took it to the roadside where its mother patiently awaited its return.
Look at that.
Juvenile bear in crisis. This poor cub had a leash wrapped tightly around its neck. Local authorities noticed the distressed bear and called the animal rescue team to help this unfortunate creature. The rescue team found the bear in a scared and fragile state, desperately attempting to free itself, but its efforts were in vain. One officer tranquilized the bear from a safe position, enabling the rest of the team to approach the bear. Carefully, they removed the leash from the bear and used a drone to find a safe release site nearby. The team moved the bear to this location before releasing it. Finally, the cub woke up, shook itself off, and walked into the dense vegetation. Stuck python. This huge python was discovered stuck in a hole in a drain cover in Thailand after it attempted to slither its way into the narrow sewer opening, probably in pursuit, if not search, of a prey, until its wider body bulge got in the way and was too large to fit through. Once the rescuers arrived, they first tried using massage oil around the snake's body to help slip it out, but were unsuccessful. With the help of local officials, the drain cover was lifted, and they carefully started pulling the python out from the narrow opening. Had the rescue taken any longer, this python probably would have suffocated. Corn snake rescued. A couple went outside to feed the animals, but what they found in the fence made them forget everything. A corn snake stuck in the gate, exhausted from trying to free itself. Although it had smoothly traveled through a pipe, a small hole near the bolt caused it to get stuck.
Oh gosh, hold on.
Luckily, this snake didn't go unnoticed, as the man used a helping tool with his strong hands to free the snake by snipping the metal away. After that, the snake didn't wait a minute and slithered out of sight. Snake set free. This unfortunate snake was looking for food, and in its search, found itself stuck in a juice can. The space was so small that it managed to get inside, but had no way to come out. Luckily, two visitors stumbled upon this helpless soul and decided to rescue it. One of them used a sharp tool to carefully cut the can and made a safe passage for the distressed snake to come out. As it came out, the man held its neck gently to avoid danger, and later released it into the deep forest. sticky snake. This unlucky snake became glued to the ground after falling in a sticky trap. Hungry, thirsty, and immovable for days, the poor serpent was looking for help when a man found it and decided to help it by using some oil, carefully removing the snake from the trap, as the slightest pull in the wrong direction could damage the snake's skin. When it was detached from the trap, this kind gentleman brought the helpless soul to his home and offered food and water. It stayed there for a few days until it got better, and later the man freed it into the woods where it had been living. Dog family rescued. This dog mama and her puppies were discovered living without food or shelter for several days. However, when rescuers tried to approach her, the canine became possessive and tried to charge the rescuer.
Hey, Mama.
But well-trained officers first won her trust by offering food and pampering her, showing that they were there to help.
No, it's okay, don't growl. Hey, Mama.
When the dog showed positive signs, they carefully took all the puppies and their mother to the sanctuary, where they were taken care of.
We have all of them, okay?
When the puppies were old enough, they, along with their mother, were adopted and found their forever homes. Dog rescued from chamber. This female dog had been stuck in a chamber for 2 days. The city experienced heavy rainfall, which increased the water level, and strong water waves drove this poor creature into the chamber. Some locals heard its noises and called for rescue. The team arrived, and due to the chamber's great depth, they used a high ladder and climbed into it with pieces of climbing equipment. They pulled the critter out of its misery, and as the dog came out, it ran into the city where it had been living. Trapped puppy. This little puppy was probably sneaking out through the fence, but the critter's fate had some other plans, as it ended up with its neck entangled in the iron mesh. Fortunately, a man noticed the distressed animal and came to the rescue. He tried to break the lock first, but it didn't work. Then he held the puppy's neck gently and carried it to a place where there was a much larger space. As its neck reached there, it found its salvation. Thankfully, the animal was not injured and carried on with its life. Duckling saved from danger. This mama duck was crying on the side of the road because her children fell into this grate. Luckily, she was in a good neighborhood, and when the surrounding people noticed the poor duck in severe distress, they rushed to help.
She was like, I'm gonna stand here and wait until you people help me.
They opened the lid of the grate, and with great teamwork, they managed to rescue all the ducklings and handed them one by one to the mama.
As soon as the last one came out, she was gone. They were all cheerful to see the light, and they all looked healthy.
Entangled turtle. While boating in the sea, a group suddenly came across a poor turtle badly entangled in netting. They brought the turtle onto their boat and started removing the netting. Okay. Being trapped in a net for an unknown time period, the poor soul was bearing some damage, but the rescuers were sure its flippers would be okay. With care, they removed the entire netting and then allowed the turtle to swim back into the ocean.
Good here?
Yeah.
Underground dog. A passerby on the street noticed a hole in the ground, shaped peculiarly, almost as if some animal had passed through. Sensing trouble, the man began digging into the ground, only to discover a pregnant dog awaiting help. The poor creature had stumbled into the hole to seek shelter, but someone repaired it, blocking it with bricks, forcing the distressed dog inside. Whimpering and terrified, the dog had lost all hope until the man rescued her. With utmost care, a man pulled the critter out and pampered her with food and love. Hanging pigeon. This unlucky pigeon got its beak stuck between the wall and the roof of a brick-built house. The poor soul was unable to free itself and kept hanging in the air. Some neighbors spotted the bird in the uncomfortable position and called a rescue team, who immediately arrived on the scene and climbed the wall with the help of a ladder. One of the rescuers carefully removed the pigeon from its misery. Once removed, it was brought to a center, and after a thorough checkup and care, it was finally released back to explore the world. Tangled sheep. This out-of-luck sheep was trying to cross the fence, but ended up tangling in it. Fortunately, a motorcyclist happened to pass through that road when he noticed this critter in a tough situation.
Oh no, stop! Oh god, that looks painful.
Instead of just passing by, he stopped to do the right thing. The gentle soul went near the sheep to help, which was still struggling. The man knew he had to cut the fence quickly, before the poor animal injured itself.
Oh, come on. Oh god, you need to stop. No, stop. Oh.
Without further delay, the man cut off the fence and freed the poor soul. Lamb in pipe. A bunch of kids heard distressed cries coming from underground and found a lamb trapped inside a pipe. Instead of calling for rescue, these children took matters into their own hands and gathered tools to open the pipe. It was a challenging task for these little hands, but the determined folks finally opened the pipe and recovered the lamb that might have fallen into a sewer somewhere nearby, and the water drove it to this pipe. Impala rescued. An impala was trapped in the mud at Zimbabwe National Park. Local authorities called for rescue, and a team hurriedly arrived at the park. One officer tied a rope around his waist and waded through the mud to reach the distressed impala. Once he was close enough, he secured the rope around the impala and had his colleagues pull them both back to dry land. The rescue team provided water and food to the distressed animal, and after it was able to stand on its own, it was allowed to go back to the wild. Entangled deer rescued. While hiking, these individuals came across a stressed-out deer entangled in a wire fence. Struggling to free itself, it got its hair and body mangled in several places. Knowing the scared critter wouldn't remain calm for much longer, they carefully managed to cut the wire around its leg. The deer screamed and tried to run away from its saviors, but the kind people didn't give up. They removed the fence entirely, freeing the animal. Once liberated, the deer ran off into the dense forest. Leopard set free. A group of villagers spotted a distressed leopard in a well, speculating it had fallen in the dark. Rescuers were called, who quickly realized the rescue was far more challenging than it looked. Using a large net positioned around the well's edge, they placed a huge ladder inside, expecting the leopard to climb out. Initially confused, the leopard avoided the ladder, but with water poured down, it changed position, jumped onto the ladder, and entered the cage. After a successful mission, the rescue team thoroughly checked and fed the leopard for a few days before releasing it back to its habitat. Distressed wolf saved. This unfortunate wolf jumped off the fence, but sadly got its foot entangled in it, lying helpless and crying for help. Thankfully, its plea was heard by a man nearby, who came to rescue the poor soul. The man brought a cutter from his home and delicately cut the fence off from the poor critter's foot, freeing it. Once liberated, the wolf didn't look back and ran safely into the forest where its family had been waiting for it. As it disappeared into the woods, the man smiled, knowing he had given a second chance to a wild spirit. Leopard rescued from tree. Villagers observed a leopard resting atop a tree, raising concerns when it did not descend to the ground. After a while, they contacted the rescue team to investigate. Upon arrival, the team sedated the critter from a safe distance. Once they ensured the leopard was sedated, a brave officer climbed the tree and expertly lowered the big cat to the ground. After bringing it down, the rescuers efficiently placed it in their van and transported it to their sanctuary. Crawling on a pole. A 13-foot-long python was seen crawling up a pole in front of shocked residents. But before it could break wires or hurt itself, animal rescuers were called to save the reptile. Once the team arrived, they tried to lower the python down by using a crane. But after realizing general methods wouldn't work, it was decided to use a crane lift to reach the snake. It took almost 2 hours to remove the snake because it kept resisting rescue attempts. After ensuring the python's presence didn't damage the cables, the rescue team drove to a nearby forest, where the python was released back to its thick habitat. Open discussion. Not all rescue stories have happy endings, just like this one. In the Silent Valley Game Ranch in South Africa, a python had eaten an impala ewe and was attempting to cross the fence to return to its habitat. But unfortunately, this creature ran out of luck and got stuck in the electric fence. Although a few hunters nearby spotted it and immediately called for help, by the time the rescue teams arrived, the poor python had succumbed to the fence's pressure. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.